Morning, mate.
Morning, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and welcome all to part 17 of My Life, My Music, where we take a trip down memory lane and revisit some of those halcyon days and moments of the golden age of football and today as well. So it's a bit of a now and then or a then and now, depends on what way you want to look at it. It's always a mixed bag, and we play off the cuff just like what you used to when you put the Chelsea, Arsenal, Stoke shirts on, Seattle Sounders and England as well. So, yeah.
Well, the England shirt. Well, I wasn't very happy with the England shirt because it was Admiral and it was Hudson-Revie's another backhander. Yeah, I know it's nothing to do with football, but I remember Bobby Moore in 1970 when he wore that England shirt in Mexico and he looked $1 million, you know. But and then we got them scraggy old shirts that Hudson-Revie, you know, took from Leeds to England because that was part of his deal when he took over the England job, that he brings Admiral with him. So it just tells you that it was nothing to do with football. It was greed, and it was, you know. And I've seen England wear some bad kits, but my God, you know how the game used to be, you know.
He did like a bit of a bung, didn't he? We don't have to say allegedly because he did. We've got it on record from Supermac.
Absolutely. It was, you know, I only really brought him up because, you know, we've been talking a lot recently about another disaster in Southgate. You know, it's one disaster after another with the FA. Something needs to be done badly with the FA to, you know, do what Brian Clough wanted to do all them years ago, really, and clean the place out, you know. And I kind of experienced yesterday. I watched Stoke play Reading, and if this is the future of football in the Potteries, you know, I sat in the box with the great Jimmy Greenoff, and you know, we kind of kept glancing at each other as much as to say, "What are we watching?" You know, if this is the future of English football, and that's what happened, and it all stems from our national team.
It does,
you know,
it does, and that's why for me, football is about entertainment. Whether you win, lose, or draw, I want to watch games of football that excite me, and I want to have that feeling of I've absolutely loved it. I want to go down the ground or turn on the telly and watch it again. And when you watch boring, dull football, you don't want to watch it again. That's me. I know that the fans pretty much will go and watch anything as long as their team wins, they're happy. But that, to me, that ain't football. And as you say, if that is the way that football is going in the future, then I do feel for the game.
Yeah. I remember when you and I first started out on this show and everything else, and we were talking about the future of the game, and you know, we think the best player was Jack Grealish, and how far he's come through great management from Dean Smith. We've always said that it's all about managers, and it is all about managers, no doubt. I'm just having my friend in Stoke, and he knew Tony Waddington very well, and he's just saying what a gentleman what he was, and people hang on to his every last word. And you know, the game, you got the Southgate goes on TV and he speaks about football, and he says all the things that people want to hear, and really none of them relate to entertainment. It's and crazily that, you know, within 18 months, Jack Grealish, I've had arguments with people say he will never crack it at the top level. He goes down too easy. He's always on the floor and all this. I mean, what are they watching, you know? And now, I don't know if Pep Guardiola could do anything for Stoke, but I know he's always had the best teams in the world, from Barcelona to Bayern Munich to Manchester City, but he don't throw away £100 million on a player that goes down too easy, you know. And I think I said to you the other week, it was a great what Jack said about, you know, the best bit of advice he received was from Martin O'Neill when he said to him, He said that you can go down with all you want because you're getting fouled. It's like Lionel Messi's on the floor all the time. That's because he fouled all the time. That's the only way they can stop him. But Martin O'Neill said, look, if you're going to go down as close to their goal as you possibly can, and then they'll think twice about bringing you down, you know. And that was great advice. And now Jack is £100 million, and in 2 years' time, that would probably treble. If he's, I think he's an absolute snippet, £100 million.
I think you're right because again, Gareth Southgate had played him in the Euros. Had England gone on and won it, Jack Grealish had gone and been the star of the show, as with Harry Kane, could have been the Golden Boot winner. Their value increases because people get more exposure to these players. And I think that the problem is with some people that pass comment on Jack Grealish, they don't watch him that often and they
Yeah,
don't understand the game. They don't understand what he's about. And Bill Shankly, all those years ago, said to his Liverpool players, "There's only one place to get kicked, and that's in the box." So
yeah.
nothing ever changes. Oh, you're always going to have your best players get kicked. It goes with the shirt. It's part of the game. It's part of the only way that some defenders can stop you is kick you, and that is a great asset to have going forward in that final third, and particularly at international and at that top level now where Jack's going to be plying his trade.
Well, yeah. I mean, if nobody tried to kick you, then you have a problem because it's a compliment in many ways. I, you know, I remember playing against the geezer once at Stoke. I think it was Burnley, and I knew this fella, and I thought there's only one way to play you, and that's to run you. And I'd run him for a little while and wait till he's a little bit out of breath, and then get the ball, and then that's when you can hurt them. But he asked me to slow down a bit. And I said, well, look, I said, you should work harder on your game, mate. And it's simple as that. And I think Grealish has done that. Dean Smith's told him, if you're going to, ability, ability alone is not good enough. You've got to be at the very top level of your game. It even goes back to George Best. George Best, they used to talk about George Best. He's out in nightclubs. He's with this bird, that bird, Miss World, blah, blah, blah. But that fella was so fit. He trained so hard, and he was, and again, Ronaldo. Ronaldo's 36, 37. He got knocked out with 3 games before the final. He still ended up with a golden boot, and that is all down to his dedication and hard work and everything else. It's a credit to him. And that's the way the game is. Kids don't realise, they're not told that the better player you are, the harder you got to work. And it's happened for Jack. I couldn't be happier for the lad, and I just hope that Manchester City thought they had a great team. Where they're not good. They weren't as great as what they're going to be with him in there. He's going to show them a different dimension. They thought David Silva was probably the best midfield player they've ever had, and now they got one even better.
And this is it for me. Jack Grealish has always been a midfield player. He's a player that can play further up on that left, but I don't like him playing there. I prefer him in the middle where he sees the ball and he gets it on the half turn and he starts taking the ball to opponents in areas that he can hurt and playing them little passes in, round the corner if you like, or into feet, and having a give and go and making something happen, creating the magic, sprinkling the stardust in that final third, but in a more central area where he can hurt teams more.
Yeah, I think we've touched on this before. With Villa, he's had to
Yeah,
play a role further forward, and they need him up there, and they need other players because their first thought is we can't get beat today,
yeah.
and they've always been in a relegation battle until they beat Liverpool 7-2. Then they realise, there's sunshine here, but for Manchester City, they're fearless. They give him the number 10 shirt, and Pep's just going to say to him, look, go where you want, go where the ball is,
Yeah.
be around the ball, That's all I want from you, because while you're on the ball, we got a chance of scoring. He's got an entirely different ball game in his hands now, and he's going to love every minute of it. Because he'll get, unlike with England when he played on the left wing and they wouldn't give him the ball, he's
Yeah,
going to have so much of the ball that he'll be fed up with it. And that's what Jack Grealish is all about. He just wants to play. He wants the ball, and as you say, you want to be entertained. Well, you're going to get entertained now. To be perfectly honest, mate, I couldn't really watch Manchester City too much. I didn't think they were that good. I don't,
yeah,
they might be the best team. Even when they played Chelsea, they had one shot on goal against Chelsea in the Champions League. They were very poor, and I think that was what Pep decided. They need a Jack Grealish in there, because that won't happen with Jack in there. They'll have more than one shot on goal.
absolutely.
Uh, and this is a new Man City. They build a team around him now.
Absolutely, and you've always said that, and Harry Redknapp has also said it. I think that anybody that really understands the game, if you're the England national team manager, you build your team around Jack Grealish. We should have done that. Revie should have done that. Ramsey should have done it. Should have built the team around Alan Hudson and Tony Curry. And it is, as you've done articles in the Telegraph with Jim White, is it history repeating itself? Well, let's hope that Pep now has broken that circle and he teaches Gareth Southgate how football should be played. And if he brings in Harry Kane as well, it does bode well for England with a number of Foden, Grealish, and Kane playing week in, week out together in that Manchester City team.
Well, the sad indictment of our game is that no matter how they're doing, how well he does, that Southgate is not going to change
Mm,
his way of thinking.
yeah,
For him, he's a national treasure all of a sudden that's got England to a final.
mm,
But what a lot of people don't understand is, when we've almost got success, and apart from '66 was 1996 when we should have won it under our best manager, Venables. Uh, and then we got to the final this year. All the games have been at Wembley.
yeah,
How would we have fared in, in Italy, say, if we played all the games? How would we have fared in Mexico? How would we have fared in Brazil? We would never got to the final. The path was laid out for England to win this championship. I mean, they had the easiest run in. Uh, and yet they still couldn't do it, and they left the best player on the touchline. It's still, it's gone, and it's all been said before, but it just still nags with you,
yeah, it does.
And the reason it nags with me, because I've been through that.
Mm,
In '74, when I was banned for 3 years, I watched England play. They didn't qualify. They didn't qualify for 12 years, and they wondered why.
yeah,
And then out of the frying pan into the fire, Ramsey gets a sack and Revie comes in, and that was me done twice. It was a double whammy for me, because again, it was like Southgate with Jack. He don't like him, and it's just as simple as that. And when you get right, when you take to the knee, I was just saying to my friend, they go down on the knee about this black and white thing. Well,
mm,
this is far worse. This is far more racial than black and white. We should take to the knee against the manager, I think, and say, get rid of this manager. It's all the players have said through that tournament, how wonderful it is in training when Jack gets the ball. We love
mm,
watching him, we love playing with him, and yet the manager keeps cocking a deafening. He won't change his ways whatsoever, and it's sad that we haven't got an FA committee that says, you got to the final, but the fans are paying good money here. We need to entertain the fans. Going back to the Mexico and USA game last week in Las Vegas, which I watched, there was 70,000 Americans and Mexicans going ballistic in the crowd.
yeah,
It was so exciting and entertaining. It really didn't. I mean, my son was part of the management team of the USA, and really, you got lost in even thinking that watching the game. You just wanted to watch it because it was that exciting. And yet you compare it to the England and Italy game, and me and Don Shanks watched it in the Grosvenor casino, and we were looking at each other, wondering what we were doing. just ordering another drink to keep us awake. It was so boring, and that's all down to management. And we always come back to management, Paul, don't we?
It always comes back to management. It all comes down to coaching. It all comes down to philosophy of the game. Because at the end of the day, if you're playing for a negative, boring manager, that's what your team's going to be turning out. And if you're playing for a manager that's got a forward-thinking philosophy and wants to take the game to the opponents, that's how you're going to turn out. That's how you're going to play. Have we got a song for Jack before we move on more to talk about Anthony, and then we're going to be talking about the Charity Shield because it was 51 years to the day, Al, the 8th of August 1970, when you played in your Charity Shield game at Stamford Bridge against Everton. So before we get on to that, we're going to be talking about Anthony. Let's finish with Jack. Have we got a song for Jack?
Well, as I said, uh, I think "You're So Vain" is very good. I mean, I love that. I love that song. I think it's a great song, and that nobody. People used to say it was about Mick Jagger. People used to say it was about Warren Beatty that she was singing about. But it could be said of Jack today because
Yeah,
of the way he walks onto the field, the way he walks out, and it was wonderful in the week because I went to see, the prostate cancer. I went to see my professor, uh, and she's a lovely old lady. I hope she don't mind me calling her old. But she's a lovely, lovely lady. And she said to me, "What did you think of the Euros?" I said, said I was very disappointed. But her and her secretary, they were quite taken aback. And they said, "Well, I thought we did very well. We got to the final." I said, "No, winning's not everything, and getting to the finals not everything." And I said, what the manager was, with a different manager, with a Terry Venables, say, with a Tony Watt and with a Brian Clough, we would have won that tournament standing on our heads because we had the best players there and we didn't play them. And she said to me, she said, my granddaughter, every time the camera went on Jack Grealish, she flushed.
yeah,
She says he's absolutely this. She fell in love with Jack all of a sudden. Just his demeanour,
yeah,
to look at him because he's always got. He even smiled through everything that was going against him, all the insults he received from Southgate, and I call it an insult because to put him on and then take him off, it was, I people don't believe me, but had it been me, I would have refused to come off.
yeah.
I just said, no, I'm not coming off. It's simple as that. And someone's got to make a stand somewhere. And I blame Harry Kane as well. He's captain. You remember the time when Lineker looked over at Bobby Robson
Yeah, yeah.
when
Gaza.
Gascoigne got
Yeah,
fouled?
yeah.
Yeah, well, Lineker,
Have a word. Yeah,
I'm not a Gary Lineker fan. In fact, I don't like him at all.
yeah.
But he was right on this occasion. He looked over at Bobby Robson. He pointed to his eye. Keep your eye on him,
Hmm.
because he's going to do something. And that was good captaincy. Keep an eye on him. And Harry Kane should have looked over at Southgate and said, "What are you doing? Don't bring him off. He's my source of,
Mm,
of creation.
yeah,
We want a creative player, and he's the greatest creator in the country. And he's proved it at Villa in a lowly team. So what's he? You can bet your life this season he's going to be. He's going to be. If they have a golden boot for assists, he will make
yeah.
more goals for Manchester City than on any record.
And the only thing and problem I have with assists is a player gets the ball in the middle of the park, say for instance Jack Grealish, he goes past two or three players. He then puts a ball on a plate to a player that passes the ball. That doesn't count as an assist, although he's created the goal. So it's a bit bonkers, the assist. But you're right, he will be up there with the assists and valuable. I think there should be a kind of like valuable contribution to a goal. I don't know how far back we go, but we do sometimes look at the player that just taps it in, but the goal was made by that player that just sprinkles that stardust.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, people get carried away about goal scorers. It's
Yeah,
like uh, I read the I put him right in the other day. I just come across a program, Peter Osgood's best 11. And no if someone's going to say, it's like when Malcolm MacDonald at Arsenal, he said, you know, he mentioned me, he mentions Alan Ball. These appreciate the people that set the goals up for
Yeah,
them and create space for them, and they can make runs. Jimmy Greenoff yesterday at Stoke, he knew when I had the ball where it was going to go, and he got more chance of scoring if I had the ball than anyone else, because it's all about creating an opportunity for him,
yeah,
and that's what Jack brings to the table, and yet he's left out and ignored, and he will be. He's got to make a decision now. He's got to sit down. He should have sat down with Dean Smith. He's got to sit down with Pep Guardiola and say, what about my international career?
yeah.
And if Pep, he will want him to play for England because it's good for Manchester City, because he got so many players in there, but none of them as good as Jack. And he's got to say, look, if he continues to ignore you, just concentrate on playing for Manchester City.
Mm.
Just cut your ties with the international team, which I should have done really after the West Germany game, because there's nothing worse than just being continually overlooked for lesser players.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's all Jack can do. Just keep playing his game, play in the Champions League, play at that highest level. And if the managers, you've said it's like boy meets girl, isn't it? You know, if she
Yeah,
don't fancy you, she don't fancy you. You just
yeah.
move on, you concentrate, you do what you do. And then, you know, nothing lasts forever. New managers come in, different philosophy, and bang, you're running again. But at least on the club side for Jack, and I think that was the biggest thing for him, he wanted to play at that highest level, the chance of winning league titles, cups, and playing in that Champions League. Again, plying his trade at the highest level. Now, if Gareth Southgate overlooks that, then Gareth Southgate overlooks it, and nobody can do nothing about that. Similar to Ramsey, similar to Revie. But your son Anthony, what a job he's doing as part of the team in Team America, the US. He was manager, stroke coach manager of the under 20s, but he's been elevated, hasn't he? He's working with the full American team, and they now are champions. So I guess we're the champions from Queen. Would be quite an
Uh,
appropriate song to play for Anthony in America. Well done.
yeah, yeah. It's another superstar in Freddie. Yeah,
Yeah,
only Freddie could have got away with that one. But I was speaking to my friend Don Shanks the other day, and it's quite a phenomenal story, and I don't use that word lightly. He I remember Don was used to run an indoor football school in Tampa Bay, Florida, and we were over there. Anthony come over with his mum, and Anthony had never played football, and it was, or as they say over there, soccer. And he was about 7 years of age, 8 years of age, and he was brought up in a school that played uh, American football, basketball, baseball, rounders as we call it. And he just said this particular night, can I join in and play? And he joined in the 5, 6, 7 aside, and he was just running around and didn't touch the ball. And I said to him, Anthony, you're supposed to get hold of the ball. He said, well, I don't really know what to do. And so this is a kid that's gone into coaching. He's learned about the game. He's watched the game. As luck would have it, he came to Stoke and watched our really good, films of our good team, and educated. He's educated himself basically, and he's worked his way up. He was at Newport. He got the sack at Newport County, and about 2 years ago, through Harry Redknapp and his man Willie Mackay. It was in the last two to get the Doncaster Rovers
yeah, it
job,
was. Yeah.
and thankfully he never got it.
Mm.
You know, it was a blessing in disguise, because had he got the Doncaster Rovers job, he would have been pulled into. He would have had that on his CV now, sacked from Doncaster Rovers, because Pep Guardiola wouldn't get them out of trouble. And now, instead of being at Doncaster, there he was in this brand new stadium in Las Vegas last week, beating Mexico. It wasn't all down to him. He's not the manager, but he would have had some say, and you could see the celebrations after that. he's a part of the team there, and I couldn't. I mean, I wrote to him in the week and said, "You don't realise how lucky you are being born in the United States, because their philosophy is quite the opposite of what we've been talking about." Negativity and not playing your creative play. Last week against Mexico, I think there was 34 shots on goal
Yeah,
in the game. It was from end to end, and the excitement was unbelievable. And the two lots of fans were getting together. The Mexican, well, but they're all the same kind of breed anyway,
yeah,
because like in America, they're all come from all over the world to live in America, and there was 70,000 crazy people in that stadium, and it was just delightful. So especially after the pandemic, people coming together and enjoying that. Whereas in Wembley with 60 odd thousand people, I thought it was horrendous.
mm,
It was dull. The it was kind of, thank God for that when the final whistle went. And then you hear that they're gonna give him and the manager a knighthood. A knighthood for what? Boring people.
yeah,
It's unthinkable. These people at the FA have got to be held responsible for whatever, for extending his contract before they'd even kicked a ball. Which is doesn't make sense. They should have said to him, either you win this, you're the host country, or we're looking for a new manager. But they've touted this fella. They brought him through the ranks from the under-18s right into the first team to take over from Hodgson. He's been in the background. They've lined him up. They've rehearsed him, and he's like an actor. He's like Tom Cruise could have done this part. You know, it's like watching a film. It's just so unrealistic. It's nothing to do with football. Uh, Again, we love football managers. We love managers that love football. We love being a former player myself. And again, with Greenough yesterday, it was just so pleasurable on a Saturday afternoon that the manager never told us what to do,
yeah,
where to go, or there was no threat of us being pulled off to put on a defender. Um, Players, Alan Ball used to have a saying that if you can play, you must play, and it's simple as that. And that philosophy should be on the England dressing room wall. Those who can play must play, and there we are with our best player not playing. Um, and he's been left with egg on his face a bit, Southgate, but they're so thick-skinned, these people,
mm,
that egg will just run off and dry, and he'll go into the next competition. His record is incredible, really. If you look at the defeats and everything else, but records don't tell the story, do they?
no.
It is unthinkable that he, this man wouldn't get a job anywhere else in the world. You know.
No, you wouldn't. And 34 shots at goal, that tells a story because there's only 90 minutes. So it's every 3 minutes or less than 3 minutes, there's a shot at goal. That is entertainment, and that puts bums on seats and ultimately gets them bums off the seats because they're being entertained. And
Yeah, and I think it might have been you told me that I think Harry Kane was seen in the box 4 times, which is unthinkable, especially when the Italians. If you looked at the Italian team, and the first thing you said, and me and Shanksy sat there, so what you got to do, surely, with this Italian team is try and get to them two back players.
mm,
One of them would looked older than me. Um, and the other one was about 2 years his junior. They were that old. They were nearly 100 between them, I think, and
yeah,
that should have been our focal point. That should have been what we should have attacked. Instead of that, he had Harry Kane playing on the halfway line. Yeah, it just didn't make any sense whatsoever. For young kids watching the game, I don't. This was not educational at all.
no, it certainly wasn't. Is Anthony still based in Chicago, or has he had to move digs these days?
No, he's in the Windy City,
Yeah,
mate.
still
He's
there.
still he's still there. It's as Tony Bennett and all them would sing. Um, it's a fantastic city. I used to love playing in Chicago.
Yeah,
They used to have a real good team in our day. Chicago Sting. They were all German. So whenever we played them, Seattle and Chicago, it was England v Germany, really. It was like another war, which is fantastic. That's what you want. Great competition and every game that means something. And England and Italy in the final over here should have been one hell of a game, but it was dampened. I'm just looking out. I'm sitting in Stoke looking out the weather with the rain coming down, and
Yeah,
it was
same in
like
Birmingham.
yeah, it was like watching. It was actually as dour as the weather, and it belies, if you'd have dug up Tony Waddett and Bill Nicholson, Ron Greenwood, Joe Mercer, and said pick the team to play against Italy, that was 7 or 8 of them wouldn't have been in the team. That would have been all out attack. And if we're going to win the World Cup, even in '66, we weren't the best team in the tournament, I don't think, but we had 4 world class players, and our only world class player we had here, we didn't get in the team.
Yeah.
It was shades of Jimmy Greaves, and I think I said to you at the beginning, there was a lot of 1966 about this competition, with team selection. Jimmy Greaves was broken-hearted the same way as Jack was, but Jack wasn't injured. Jimmy Greaves was left out for lesser mortals again. So there's always a downside to it. The best team doesn't always win.
Yep.
I think England were very, very lucky that Spain didn't beat Italy and they played Spain in the final, because I think we would have seen a humiliation, because Spain would have really tortured England.
Yeah, they pass the ball so well, don't they?
No, they were superb. They were superb. And that's what we want to watch. I think all through the tournament, when Italy played Spain, it was I didn't want the game to end. It was that good.
There.
It was that good. And, you touched on earlier about entertainment. That was entertainment. And it was wonderful to watch. And that's what we want to see. We don't want to see everybody dancing around because England won. We want to be proud about the way we played.
100%. Again, all about entertainment. Let's go back to and I tell you what, a great little song to put in there. Although we can't play the songs because there's copyright issues, but I make a little playlist to accompany the My Life, My Music with Governor Alan Hudson. I think we'll drop Chicago in there because Chicago, and then play that for Anthony. So Anthony's got 2 songs in there, Chicago and We Are the Champions. Before we leave, Anthony, and go back to the 70s, the Cheddar Shield, how's the dogs?
Well, one of them's wearing a medal. He's got this thing about dogs. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it comes from. But a lot of people said that I had the same problem when I was playing, but it was a different kind of dog. But no, he has. He's got this. He's got these 2 wonderful dogs that I forget what they're called. They protect people. Yeah. And I remember the first time my son took my granddaughter over to, I think it was Kuwait or somewhere like that, when he was
yeah.
I think he was manager over somewhere.
Bahrain, wasn't he? He was manager of Bahrain.
Bahrain, yeah. He spent time there, and my granddaughter couldn't work out why the dog kept following her everywhere.
Yeah.
He was just protecting her. And I I come to Colorado 2-3 years ago when he was managing Colorado, and I got up in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, went to the bathroom, and opened my bedroom door, and there was a dog sitting outside guarding my room. So they're wonderful creatures. I mean, it's a little bit like having Nobby Stiles, I suppose, in your team. And when Ramsey says about throwing the ball and bringing it back and giving it to Bobby Charlton, it's like a bit like that. We're having these dogs around, it's fabulous, and that's why Anthony has fallen in love with that side of it, and he's even sent me a photo over with a dog in the tunnel wearing the Gold Cup medal, which is he was trying to make a statement, I think.
But that's fantastic, isn't it, Al? And if that was in England, that's you can't have the dog in the tunnel here. It's against health and safety. But in America,
Yeah, yeah.
put a medal on the dog. He's part of the team.
Well, I'd have said don't have Southgate in the tunnel. It's against health and safety. It's it just simply ridiculous, And again, it's 66 going into 70. Then 12 years we didn't qualify, and it's winning. It just goes to show that winning can be the worst possible
Yeah.
thing. Getting to the final was the worst thing could have happened to this England team. Had they got knocked out early, they'd have now have a new manager. But the only problem is who would they'd have brought in a replica of Southgate, I
Yeah,
suppose.
probably.
Yeah, I mean they even were going to go with Sam Allardyce. I mean, my God, Sam might be a nice man, but he's not an international manager. Can you imagine Sam Allardyce telling Pele what to do, or Jairzinho or Rivellino? They would say, "Who is this man?" It's we have a terrible problem at the FA. I did a podcast the other week with Brian Robson, and he's one of my all-time favourite players. And I embarrassed him. I said, you're the second best captain ever of our national team, and you're probably the only two really. And that's not really having a go at Tony Adams. I'm a big Tony Adams fan, but I embarrassed him and said, you were as close to Bobby Moore as I've ever seen, and we should have people like Brian Robson on the committee, the FA, picking the next manager.
Absolutely.
Tony Curry, get him on there. Even myself, or half a dozen former players who want players to go out and enjoy themselves and create and play, and say to Grealish, you're our captain, like Dean Smith did to him. You're responsible now. You behave yourself off the field. You're responsible. You're my number 10, and make this team tick. And that would have been our selection. Jack would have been captain, and others would have, all them others in training that love him, and would they just fall into place? And we would have walked away with that championship had he played, because it was so there for the taking.
Yeah.
The door was wide open for us, and we didn't go through it.
Absolutely. You did go through the door in 1970 before you got to the Charity Shield, which, as I said earlier, was on the 8th of August 1970. You had a little trip to Sweden. You stopped off at Ajax, and that's where you discovered Heineken and Cruyff.
Yeah, it doesn't really go hand in hand. We thought we could drink Heineken and then play against this team the next day that we thought were a cleaning product, and they weren't. I think we had just played the 2 days before. I think we played PSV Eindhoven or something.
Oh, okay.
Or a French team. We played a real good team on the way there. They give us a runaround, in fact. Because the European teams around at that time, they were really good. We had some wonderful teams in them days. As we found out when we won the Cup Winners' Cup, teams like Bruges with Robbie Rensenbrink. But we didn't know what we was walking into in Amsterdam. We thought Amsterdam was all about the red light district, which we found out was true. We stood in the window drinking this new drink that we'd never come across. We figured how good it was because we could have a few drinks because we was only playing Ajax, or Ajax as we call them. And then the following day we got another football lesson.
And people,
from the great man.
Yeah, people will say, well, weren't you aware of Ajax? Because they got to the European Cup final in '69 when they got stuffed by AC Milan. But in them days, it was a totally different day. You didn't have all the games on the TV. We didn't know what these players were like. So, yeah, we might have. But I remember as a kid thinking, Ajax, that is a cleaning product. Why would they name a team after a cleaning product? So although they did get to, and then after that in 71, 72, 73, 93, of course, they won back-to-back European Cups, but they were pretty much still unknown while you was in that red light district supping your Heineken. Who drunk most, Sponge or Oz?
Oh no, he was Tommy Baldwin was the leader of the gang, wasn't he? He was that was his game. He, wherever he could smell a pub before the plane got on the tarmac, mate. It was, but going back, that is quite a valid point. I got to this day. In 1971, we played Manchester City, who were holders of the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yep.
We knocked them out in the semi-final, and we found out that night that we were playing Real Madrid in the final. Now, we had no idea who was in that other semi-final.
Yeah.
And that goes to show exactly what you just said, that there was no Sky TV in them days. There was nothing telling us. Every game we went into, we knew nothing about the opposition, which was quite something, really. And to get there was a bigger feat than you know, because we got through by the skin of our teeth by beating Leeds the year before, and had Leeds beat us, we would never have lived it down. It would have been Revie, gloating. But instead, Osgood kind of put one over them. And because he scored against Leeds, when Revie got the job, he never got picked. So it was a bittersweet thing for Osgood. But I don't think Osgood would swap playing for England for that goal he scored against Don Revie. It was, again, the best players don't get selected. And for England, who is supposed to have invented the game, for 12 years we were out of the World Cup, which should have really had a public. The public should have turned around and said, "Look, we need something done at the Football Association. We need to get them out and get some new people in to provide us with a manager to pick the best players." Because it's still going on now, and it's sacrilege. It's not good for the game. And when we spoke about the other week about when Terry Butcher said about it's great to see that so many defenders are getting, acknowledged. Well, really, defenders are there to defend, aren't they? Yeah. Nobody's ever come through the turnstiles to watch a defender. We go to football. We left the ground yesterday, me and my friend, and we said let's try and get the second half of the Man City game because Grealish should be coming on. Yeah. I don't know if he even come on, but
yeah, he did.
That's all we wanted to watch. We weren't interested in watch a defender or nothing like that. They're the people that get you through the turnstiles.
They certainly are, and Cruyff got people through the turnstiles. What was the more enlightening, watching this number 14 swagger onto the pitch when you thought that the number on his back probably he was a substitute, or being in that red light district? Although for you guys at Chelsea in the King's Road, was it like going from home to home? And had Leeds have been going there from up there in the north in Yorkshire to the red light district, that would have been almost like going to another planet. And it's just that the comparisons are unbelievable, aren't they, really?
Well, yeah, no, that was you've hit it on the head. Actually, it was like going from home to home. It was we were very comfortable in that environment. I know that a couple of Leeds players liked a good time. I remember Billy Bremner got Nick once on World Cup duty. I think it was him and Jimmy Johnson. They went out on a boat or something.
Yeah, Jimmy did,
drunk. Yeah. So there was a little bit of sanity among the Leeds team, but no, it would have been again. It was. I think it was fate. It was meant to be that we go on and win it because we did. Overall we deserved it. We were a team that were thrown together and. We played the game the right way, with people like Charlie Cook, we had people like Keith Weller. They wasn't told to pass the ball square. We never had people that pass the ball square and backwards all the time. We were a forward-thinking team, and we got our just rewards.
Talking of Keith Weller, and on an England group that I was engaging with the other day, somebody had put up that Alan Hudson had a row with Revie, and I said, "No, He didn't have a row with Revie. Revie didn't like him. He just didn't pick him. He picked him to fail, picked him once more, didn't pick. But he didn't have stand up rows with players. He just didn't. Them players, Curry, Marsh, Hudson, Bowles, Worthington, our Maverick players just didn't fit into his plan. He had that meeting, and then he also asked about Keith Weller. Why did he? Because he said, "Are you a Chelsea fan?" I said, "No, I'm not." Why did Keith Weller leave Chelsea? And I said, to this day, Al still doesn't really understand why Keith Weller left. And both of those comments that I made are absolutely correct, aren't they?
Well, yeah, yeah. It's still a mystery.
Yeah.
It was a mystery amongst us. But there were so many things going on at that time that we just turned up for. I just turned up for pre-season training the following year,
Mm,
and he weren't there. It was and life went on, but it's a it won't be the same at Villa Park this year when they all turn up for training and Jack ain't there. They'll notice that as soon as the ball starts bouncing. But in our day, uh, life went on, and you know there was only 15 of us as well, 14, 15 of us,
yeah.
and so the, the team kind of picked itself in many
Yeah, it did.
ways,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and it was a great time because you know to pick your wits against people like Robbie Renson, and he was looked at as the George Best of the Europe. Um, fantastic footballer, and they were the times, but they didn't last long enough, I'm afraid, because of again management.
Yeah.
It was the players today don't realise they were born, to actually and that and what Ferguson done. Ferguson must have been laughing his head off watching Southgate run this England team because Ferguson was the complete opposite. He wanted teams to go out and beat the other team and not go 1-0 up and hold on to a lead.
Absolutely.
Um, and that's the difference in management. It's management can make or break you, and it's. I think it broke our spirit as well because even people that don't know too much about football, they come up to me and they ask, why on earth when we go 1-0 up after 2 minutes, do we just try and hold on to the lead? And even people that don't know were asking that question. So that really tells the story alone.
It certainly does. And you did draw the game 1-1 in Amsterdam against Ajax. Hutch scored. In the summertime, Mungo Jerry was number one. It lasted 7 weeks, which was the most at number one. It was knocked off the charts on the 1st of August 1970 by the wonder of you, Elvis Presley. And that was number one when you took the pitch for the 48th Charity Shield at Stamford Bridge against Everton. And just a couple of facts about the Charity Shield. It started off life in 1908 as the Sheriff of London Shield, and in 1967 Pat Jennings scored a goal against Manchester United at Old Trafford. In 1950 a World Cup team played a Canadian touring team at Stamford Bridge. It was never the winners of the league versus the winners of the cup. But in 1974, it was moved to Wembley. Ted Croker come up with the idea of having the curtain raiser for the season, and let's play the champions versus the cup winners. And that's how it started.
Yeah, yeah. To this day, I think it's a waste of time.
Yeah,
But it's just another money. How can we earn some more money? It doesn't really. What actually amazes me is when these silly commentators, they say they've already got a trophy in the cabinet. After 3 games, but how ludicrous a statement is that?
yeah,
Because I didn't. I only played in one charity shield. It was at Stamford Bridge, as you say,
yeah.
against when Everton. We were unfortunate that Alan Ball was his absolute best around that time and ran us ragged in his white boots. So it wasn't really, and it was. I mean, I was struggling at the time with a real bad ankle, and it's playing against Alan Ball when you're fit is hard enough, and. if had he been alive today and watched that final the other night, I think he would have been shaking his head. You know, but then again, he would be another player that would be overlooked. In Southgate wouldn't have had Alan Ball in his team. He wouldn't have had Bobby Charlton in his team. That's the saddest thing of it all. Them great players of the past are four world-class players: Alan Ball, Bobby Moore, Bobby Charlton. You know, and a goalkeeper. I mean, you know, they forget the goalkeeper, but they wouldn't. The outfield players, they wouldn't have been. They wouldn't have been in Southgate's team, and they were world class. We haven't got. The only world class player that we got potentially is Jack Grealish. He's now going to prove it this year in the Champions League of just how good he is.
Absolutely. Have you got many memories of that Charity Shield game, Al? Because it ended up 2-1 with goals by Alan Whittle and Howard Kendall. Scored one with his head, and Hutch scored the Chelsea goal.
Yeah, we were poor. We were. I think we were. We had a couple of injury problems. It's not an excuse. But as I say, Everton were a very, very good team at that time because they had most of the ball because of their midfield. Ball, Harvey and Kendall were known as the best three ever, which I think, as I've said on the show before, I think if Terry Newell had any brains, we'd have. I think Brady, Ball, and Hudson would have outshone them.
I do.
That would have been the best midfield three, maybe all time in English football. Anyway, you know, it reminds me a little bit of the Barcelona situation when they had the three midfield players who the other team couldn't get the ball off. You know.
Yeah. And that is the most important area of the pitch because you win that midfield, you keep the ball, the others can't get the ball, and if they ain't got the ball out, they can't hurt you, can they?
Well, no, that's a great odds that we'd learn that in the streets, didn't we?
Yeah,
if
absolutely, yeah.
While we got the ball, they can't score. So as simple as that. But the only problem with the England team now is they think by keeping the ball and passing it backwards, that's good. But we never played it that way. We used to go our first whenever we got the ball, our first pass would be forward.
Yeah.
I spoke to Tony Curry about it the other day, and there was no finer player than him at finding people forward. And I don't think I ever see Tony Curry pass the ball backwards, to tell the truth. But it's a terrible trait in our game now. Sideways and backwards. And I know when Chelsea, I'm not a Chelsea supporter, but I hear Chelsea supporters complain over the years about, like, you can't stand watching Chelsea. They won the double, and then they couldn't stand watching because they passed the ball. Their back four, I watched them play 2-3 years ago against Bournemouth. Bournemouth beat them at Stamford Bridge 1-0, and I said to a chap at half time, we was having lunch, and I said, do you realise your back four's had it more than your front two or three? He said, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, you don't win football matches by your back four having the ball.
Yeah.
You know, they're there to stop the other team from scoring. And lo and behold, they lost 1-0. I said, well, and after the game, I said that you got the just reward there because your defenders have got too much of the ball. Well, you don't want your defenders on the ball. They were saying that this time how well Maguire played at the back and Mings and this and that, and I said to them, look, they played against teams with no forwards.
Yeah.
These continental teams, they don't play with centre forwards. They've got nobody to mark.
Yeah.
You know, and even Italy in the final, they didn't have no front players. They just let England have the ball, and then they just wore them down. You know, it's just I wake up every time I think about the game and think how, you know, England will never ever have a greater opportunity to win a competition than the one just gone, and yet they come out of it in the blaze of glory. Everybody's celebrating.
Yeah.
How can you celebrate defeat, you know?
It's quite incredible because the next time that we have a chance of winning a tournament is going to be the World Cup. It's in Qatar and it's in 2022. So it's Christmas. As soon as next season, this season finishes, bang, we're into the season will start, I'm guessing in August. We'll have that midwinter break that they've always been looking for. They'll play the World Cup. And then going forward, I'm just wondering whether there's going to be a mid-season break during the winter, and then they will go off and play some type of Super League in somewhere like Qatar in the future. Because I think things are always there, not by chance, but by design. And I think that these football authorities look at coining it and see how they can extrapolate more money from a scenario and a situation. So I just think that this might be the norm going forward.
Yeah, things, again, going back to the authorities,
Yeah,
something's got to be done. Someone's got to draw a line somewhere. I mean, money is big in football now, but you got to kind of get a happy medium
yeah,
of money and football, and um, I don't know. It's fantastic. It would be wonderful playing the game today and to earn that kind of money. But I like to see, in any industry, in music, in film, whatever. I love my movies. I love the De Niro's and Pacinos of the world and James Caan, the Godfather. These people deserve to be multimillionaires
yeah,
because they're just wonderful entertainers.
yeah,
And, I was a big Beatles fan, Lennon and McCartney and all these kind of people, the Bee Gees, and you don't you say well done, they entertain, they sell millions and millions and millions of records. Well, they can't, they not don't sell them because people just buy them for the sake of it, because they love listening to them. Well, we want to watch greatness, and when we see people, like when I see Jack Grealish, someone said get 200 grand a week. I said, yeah, and he deserves every penny of it as well, because he's gonna have you drooling. You'll be watching the telly to watch Jack Grealish
yeah.
now in a blue shirt and a
Box
number
office.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's money's irrelevant. It's give them what they're worth, and they're worth every penny.
absolutely. And I think the song that we're going to go out on, because we're talking about money, is money, 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 because you're right, money is great for the game, but money is also destroying the game. And I think no greater example than at Barcelona. They've got one of the greatest players that's ever lived, and he's going to go on a free to Paris Saint-Germain, because I don't know who's been doing the bookwork and the financing there at Barcelona, but apparently they're paying out 110% of what they're earning, which is absolutely ridiculous, and paying players in excess of 400, 800,000 pound a week. So you're absolutely right. Football needs money, and it isn't money that's killing football. It's the misuse of money that's destroying it.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Couldn't agree more. I mean, it's every nice to say. Well, I think it's a fact of life that
Yeah,
the wrong people get the money. Go back. Let's go back. I mean, for years we had this fella Blatter earning so much money. The greed and everything else involved was just, you had him and Platini. Is how we can earn more money. It
yeah,
was all, not how can we improve the game. It was
absolutely.
nothing to do with that. And I think the most disgusting thing going back to that, the women's football has become huge now. I always thought it would be. Even from a kid, I see some great young girls playing
Mm,
football, and good luck to them.
yep.
But when they asked Sepp Blatter about women's football, he said, "I think they should wear sexier outfits." Now that for me is
Mm,
just disgusting. I've got a granddaughter, and I think if that's what an old man like that wants to watch my granddaughter run around in sexy outfits, I would lock him up.
yeah, it's
That
incredible, isn't it?
is,
It's
yeah. Well, that's
incredible.
that's yeah. That's on the line of being a paedophile.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
Yeah.
uh, and you got this old man earning millions, and he should just be locked up, really. And all the wrong people are getting the money. I mean, what a thing to say about women's football.
Absolutely. And talking about lines, Al, I'm guessing you're going to have to get on one of them lines on the Ratlat back to London. How did Stoke
Yes.
get on, by the way? Did they hold on to that 2-1 lead at half time that they had?
Well, I said to the boys in my friend's Anton Booth.
Yeah, legend there, any at Stoke.
He's legend. He's the one that started Delilah.
Yeah,
And Anton, I said to him before the game, it's the first time I'm going to back Stoke today because I've been in your box about 8 times now, and Stoke haven't won one game. Today's the day. And I was misled by the Stoke fans in the box telling me how good a player this was and how good a player that was. I never see them. I never see much football there yesterday. It was a poor game, but they actually threw the lead away twice, and thankfully for me, because I had my bet, they scored with about 4 minutes to go, so to win 3-2. So it was they were jubilant, but had they not scored the third goal, I think they might have got booed off.
yeah.
It's amazing what a goal can do, isn't it? You know?
It's again fine margins. Did you manage to see?
Yeah.
Did you manage to see Ted yesterday? Who was the other boys that were in the box?
I was well pleased that I'd seen my old friend Mickey Thomas.
Oh right, how's Mickey?
Mickey looked fantastically well.
Good.
He's telling me, all the problems he had, and I said, "Don't talk to me about medical problems, Mick.
Exactly.
I'll blow you." Said, "I'll blow you out of the water, son." Don't. Yeah. But I reminded him that I was the only one that went up to see him in prison.
Yeah.
I got him out of prison for the weekend years ago because there was a young lady he wanted to come out and see, and I fixed up a match in the prison grounds for him, and he was laughing. He was quite shy about it. But they're the things you shouldn't forget because, when you're at your lowest, you need good friends. And Mickey's a lovely, lovely, lovely boy. Fantastic footballer as well, by the way.
Yeah, was.
Yeah, I love Mickey, and everywhere he went, he was a fan's favourite, which speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't a defender, strangely enough.
And
it's great to see him, and I see Eric Skills as well. Eric Skills, who was one of the great Stoke players of the past. I mean, he wasn't a Jimmy Greenough by any means, but he was a great story. You could call on Eric, put him in your side. He was about 5'3", 5'6", 5'7", and he played centre half for us. And you'd have thought he was 6'4". He was superb. And he just had his 80th birthday the other week, and he looks so well. It was worth. I didn't go for the football yesterday.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I go to the social scene. I go to see a lot of old friends of mine from the 70s, and it's wonderful that they come up and they say, "Oh, them days were the best days we've ever seen at the Victoria Ground," and it does give you a good feeling inside that people remember,
Absolutely, and that dough you put on it weren't from Mickey's wallet, was it?
I wouldn't accept any. I wouldn't change a £50 note with Mickey. I know that. I remember the days when they brought some notes out, didn't they, with his face on? Yeah. He's Mickey's he's one of life's scoundrels, isn't he?
He is. He's a little rascal.
We all love a scoundrel. But he played like a scoundrel as well, as a scavenger. Loved off the field, loved on the field. People tried the same as Grealish in many ways.
Yes.
People try to kick him. He'd kick him. He'd go down. He'd get up. He never held his leg. He never rolled around on holding his face when he was kicked in the leg. As they do today. It's all part and parcel of the game, and that was when there was some hatchet men about as well. Fantastic, and it's great to see him got through. I don't think many of these players will get through such illnesses and tragedies that he went through, I went through, because if they get kicked and go down and they're on the floor, there was a little spell yesterday for about 10 minutes where there was bodies all over the field, all laying on the floor, holding legs, trying to kill time, because it was 2-2. Reading players were lying down, then Stoke players were lying down. And it was kind of a show of, I'm hurting more than you, and it was pathetic, really.
That's what the game has become, sadly, Al, hasn't it? So we're going to go out with Delilah, and we'll play one for Mickey as well, Arthur's theme. Everybody loves an Arthur, and Mickey was an Arthur, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. I mean, it made my day. He was the first person I see when I walked in, and it's so lovely to see him. I'm just so pleased he's well.
Yeah.
And the world's a better place for having him in it.
Absolutely, and the world's a better place for listening to you on our monthly podcast, and part 17. We've done 17 now, Al. My life, my music. So till next time, Al, thanks so much for the memories, and safe trip back to London. We'll speak soon.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, and we got the same weather as well for the first time on the show. We both, in fact, it's just stopped raining here, Paul. So I think it's time for the pub.
Well, that's where my missus is off as well, to the pub. Catch you later, Al.
All right, Paul. All the best, mate.
And thanks for listening, guys. Thank you. Bye now.